Right. So very basically, the idea was how do we get more applicants, and how can applicants find about and apply to more and better jobs? So they made job openings more accessible on the internet, created these applicant tracking systems, ATS, and the computer matching algorithms and filtering. And what happened was hundreds of incoming resumes, both qualified and unqualified, lots of false hope and frustration. And the plain truth is that 75% of the resumes are not even seen by a real person, or not seen by a real person. So it sort of feels like you're throwing your resume into the black hole. At the same time, those systems have the capability where in certain companies will try and have a relationship or go back and forth, send some emails. There's all kinds of automated things they can do over there on their side. And it's frustrating to me that companies don't do it. But, maybe that's why I have business. But the idea is then to me is that, okay, if it's a necessary evil to get your resume into a system, then how can you do it in the quickest way possible? So that's the intent. And here's kind of what we're going to talk through. We already sort of mentioned some of that. So we start off right, keywords. Obviously, they're writing a job description that you can see in the applicant tracking system. The idea is the algorithms match keywords from your resume to the job description. Yeah, there are a little bit more and better algorithms now that are matching, types of words or form of the word or phrases and things like that. So that's true, but still, for the vast majority, they are like grading your resume based on the words from the job description. So this is just kind of saying, use those exact words, match the plurals, the tense, etc. CPA, put in CPA and certified public accountant. So keywords are crucial. So how do I find the keywords? Obviously, you go to the job listing. And here I'm just, showing you, which if you're in job search, you know this already, but I just figured. And then down in here, it talks about what is the job. And so these are the words that your resume is going to match against. So that's one way, go to the job listing. Some of the job listings do show you this business here by LinkedIn saying which of your skills match the skills that they would like you to have. Mm-hmm. So, this note here, decide if you should add skills before you apply. So there's two things to me about applying for a position. If you see a position that you believe is, truly meant for you and it's perfect, you have all of the skills that they're asking for, and you really want to try your best to get that job, then you could spend extra time to kind of mess with this. Go back to your profile, add things, stabilization, interpersonal skills. Now, are they absolutely using this to weed you out as opposed to using their own applicant tracking system where, basically all this data kind of comes from and goes to? It's a little bit of a crapshoot. But if you find a job that, is totally right for you, then maybe it's worth doing this. I use this one because I don't even know what stabilization is. It's like a weird, we could all imagine what it is, but it's just a weird sort of skill that they threw in there that, I don't know that I want stabilization on my profile because no one else uses it. But again, if this is absolutely the right job for you, then you could potentially add the skills before you apply. At this point, you haven't applied. You're looking at this, you're looking at your resume, you're maybe punching some things up. But so that's an idea. The other way is, how do I find key skills is, look for people who are in the job that you want and take a look at their skills. So blatantly steal. That's my advice. The idea here is you're looking at people, jobs, so you're searching for either the people or, the job title. And you're going to look at their profile and you're going to look at what skills they have here or how they describe their job, their position. You could pick 8 or 10 and add them to your own list. There is a limit to the number of skills you can add. But again, it's also to get the idea of, hey, if this is a whatever, VP of HR technology or director of sales, or whatever the position is that you're looking for, these are the types of skills that somebody who's in that job, is putting on their resume or putting on their profile. So it's another way to kind of get additional skills that are probably very related to the job that you're looking for. Another way is to sort of take a look at, there's something called wordclouds.com. You could paste your job description in there. And then what happens when, it sort of pops this up, and I pasted this job description in, when you click apply, it creates the word cloud, which is that appear more often are larger. So this kind of gives you a quick and dirty way to go, hey, what are important on this resume or on this job description? Let me take a look. Let me throw it in word clouds. And then obviously operations, experience metrics, team systems, etc. And then whatever, compensation is much smaller, customer, so you get the general flavor. Now, all of these words are in that job description. So, you want to kind of think about it and, think about what words you want to use, but these are the words that appear the most often. So if you're matching those words, potentially that's positive for your rating. Is there a question?
Just some feedback. Morris, this is great so far.
Thank you.
Notes. Good work.
Thank you. And we can send this out. I don't mind sending out the PDF. So Zoe, if that's all right, we could send that at some point.
Yeah.
There's another one called Tag Crowd. Again, it's doing the same thing. Pasting in whatever you'd like, plain text, and then it's looking at that and kind of throwing them in there. And this is a different job description. That's why the words are different. So it's creating that word cloud again. Okay, so then what should I put on my resume? What should the font be, and the format, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where, to me, the key to this conversation is that you should have at least two resumes. One of them is a truly applicant tracking kind of only resume. It's one that the system can read quickly and easily and extract that information. The other one is, I call mine my professional resume, which is much nicer and is set up, maybe with borders or colors or, multiple columns, whatever, the pretty one, the one that you take with you, hopefully when you get the, Zoom interview or face-to-face. But the ATS, the applicant tracking resume, is the one that is no frills. So we're talking no header, no footer, right? In Word, you can create that header and then it repeats on the second page. And, admittedly, some of the ATS, the newer ATS systems have gotten smarter, and they're able to, they don't really care what font you use. Some of those things, some of the standard section names, they've gotten smarter, so they're able to do it. But the majority of the systems that are out there, and we'll see a couple of those later, things like Workday, Taleo, Connexa Brass Ring, iSIMS, those systems are a little bit older, and they do what they do. They do it well, but they are looking for a basic formatted resume. So no header, no footer, no graphics, no boxes, no tables. It's truly basic. And then key here, same format for all experiences. So the idea is that computers are, I love this one, computers are stupid. I mean, they do what they're told, and they're looking for a pattern. So they're going to pull from your resume, they're going to pull your, an experience line for you, and they're going to try and slot it into their database. And in that database, the company name, potentially city, state, there's a title, there's a box for the actual description, of what you did, and there's a start and an end date. And other systems might even ask for more than that information, like the county. What the hell they're doing with the county, I'm not so sure. But anyway, but the point is that If that data is set up the same way on every one of your experiences, every one of your jobs, then the system will read it in quickly and easily. And you can click go to the next page. If it's not the same, you may see that the computer reads in one completely fine, but the next one, it's messed it up. It doesn't know what city or state. It doesn't know what your title is. Or maybe it thinks, hey, there was a second. Oh, Lynn raised her hand. Yes, Lynn.
No, keep going. I raised my hand using the feature so I wouldn't be interrupting you.
Oh, okay. I mean, so it's just, to me, again, the idea is get in and get out as fast as you can. So that means let me tailor my applicant tracking resume to make it simple for the computer to read the entire thing. And that's the point.
Question.
Yep.
Morris, okay, applying for jobs online, how do you know, is it all jobs online are being, this ATS is being used? Is it, how do you know which one is going into an ATS tracker, which opportunity, and which ones are going directly to the HR lady at the company?
Okay, so if you're going through LinkedIn, then let me put it this way. If you are not emailing your resume directly to a human being, then it's going through some sort of system.
Okay, thank you.
If it's on LinkedIn, it's in a system. So LinkedIn itself is already kind of grading and tracking your resume. So if you apply on LinkedIn and it just says, I've sent your profile to the to the recruiter, they have captured your resume, your profile in LinkedIn, and probably that recruiter is going to come back to LinkedIn and use the things that are grading your resume and your skills, or they can use it. Let's put it that way. The point here is that what we're trying to do is get our resume in to the system. And the other point is, Lynn, to your question, quite often when you say apply from LinkedIn or from Indeed or any, Glassdoor or any of them, it sends you to another website. And that website then, looks completely different than LinkedIn or wherever you were. And that's at that point, often in the address for that website, you can see it will say workday.acme.com, and a whole bunch of other stuff, or Taleo company name whatever. You'll sort of notice that if you're, start thinking about it, it's not that important, but it's up there. And that's kind of showing you that the system the name of the system that they're using.
Okay.
Is there another question?
Susan typed something.
Yes. I was just saying that if you see a job description on LinkedIn, I've often heard that you should just go to the company website to apply, that will give you priority over applying on LinkedIn, and that the instant apply is really not advantageous to use. Is that true?
So two points there, right? One is LinkedIn does actually track how often you apply through LinkedIn.
Mm.
So if you're a recruiter and you're paying for LinkedIn recruiting, you can see how often somebody has applied, which, listen, if you want to use that against someone that they're applying to a lot of jobs, you could. So you find the job there, and then you could go to, company.com on their career site and look for the job and, try and find it. So that's, should I apply through LinkedIn? The other piece that you mentioned is the quick apply option. Suppose it does just sends your profile over to the to the company. Now, if you're a recruit, I think it comes down to the individual recruiter. If you are receiving that profile information and you act upon it, then it's valuable. 90-something% of recruiters, the first thing they do when they see that you've applied is they go to LinkedIn and they look at your profile.
Okay.
So I understand what you're saying, though. Are you truly in their system? if you've just applied through LinkedIn. And usually the way to tell if it's truly put you in their system is if they ask you the EEO affirmative action questions.
Okay.
So
Yes,
often,
I gotcha.
with Quick Apply, I think there are 2 or 3 ways I've seen it used. Quick Apply, you just click it and it goes, congratulations, you applied for the job. The other way is you click it and it brings you to another page. It doesn't really look like it's, outside of LinkedIn, but it will say, do you want to use your resume? Do you want to do a couple other questions? And then it asks you, are you green card or, natural, whatever? Do you have citizenship? And then the EEO affirmative action questions. So at that point now, that is an interface or an integration into their applicant tracking system.
Okay.
Because that's what they need in applicant. That's the other reason applicant tracking systems were created, was to track the race, gender, ethnicity. Are you a soldier, and are you handicapped, or whatever the nice way to say all that stuff is. So that's the other reason they were created. So they want to track, they want to catch that data. If they're
I have
not
never
actually,
done the
Yep.
instant apply.
Okay.
I've always done it the long way around, which means I'm, not as effective with my time. So I wondered, are you able to submit a cover letter? I always want to submit a cover letter. Is that correct?
So what do you call it? Human resources, recruiting, kind of, and Ken or Ford could certainly weigh in here. The argument is that I think a resume is looked at by a recruiter for somewhere between 7 and 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of indicates that cover letters are probably not looked at.
Okay.
On the other hand, to me, it's okay. That's true to get past maybe that certain level, the first level sort of look. And then they may come back to your profile within their system and look for more information. And that's where, depending on the job, having additional files that you've added could be valuable. So it's a catch-22. If it's a cover letter that you've got that's, rather generic, but reflects on you in a positive way, and it's easy to add, I would add it. Can't hurt to add it.
I usually try and customize them.
So let's talk about that for a second. Let me see just where we're at here.
Sorry, I'm railroading you. I'll
one.
stop.
No, that's good. So the other piece I just wanted to mention in here is your standard section names. Summary, work experience, education. Don't that whole intro idea, or there's other. Oh, Ken's got a point. Yes, sir.
I'll stall for you while you're finding whatever you're finding. How's that? No, I was just going to say, regarding the cover letter, I'm going to quote my grandmother here. It couldn't hurt. If someone is not looking for a cover letter and you include it, it's no big deal. But if they're looking for one and you don't have one, then you're going to lose out. So if there's an opportunity to submit one, I would. And if I could just make one other point, what Morris is going through is great, and it's right on target. And this maybe is a given, but I would say that if you do see a job online, I would not apply to it until I exhausted every opportunity to find somebody that could maybe give me a step up
Right.
by hand delivering my resume, or putting in a recommendation or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not to take away from anything Morris is saying, because he's right on target.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would add to that, or I'm going to disagree with you, Ken. The heck with you and your grandmother.
Whoa.
No, the only thing I would say is that sometimes jobs are only up for a short amount of time, because they may only accept a certain number of people. So you sort of want to get your stuff in as quickly as possible. The catch-22 is that, yes, you want to have someone who's going to potentially hand carry or recommend you. And a lot of times when you talk to those people, should you have those kind of connections and you talk to them, one of the things that they're going to say to you is, have you submitted your resume online? So it's what came first, the chicken or the egg, either way. But I just I would, if you're, and you'll see in a couple pages that I strongly suggest you're doing networking and all the cool things that Beacon, does and helps you with. But I think that if you need to be quick, is my point.
Okay.
So,
I think you're right, Morris. But finding the sweet spot, there comes a point where you do have to apply online if you want that job or whatever, and it may be sooner rather than later. I don't disagree with you, but I think we both agree that the key is to find a person if you can.
100%. Cool. I know. I recently applied for a job with GSK, and reached out immediately the same day to 4 or 5 people who I know from in the past. And basically, it took them 6 or 7 days to get back to me. And one of the first questions that the person asked me was, "Great, can you send me the link to the job?" So I go back to the GSK website, and the job is pulled down. Now, because I had applied, I have a password into the system, and I could look at jobs that I applied for, and I could find the exact title and the job number and that kind of stuff, which only a recruiter really cares about. But, it is one of those things to sort of consider. Okay, I'm back to standard section names, and then the title of the job description potentially too long. So what I'm kind of let me see what my next slide. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go. But what I'm really recommending here is that with an applicant tracking resume, that you're taking that resume and you're formatting it as best you can with all of this criteria or all of these recommendations. And then what you do is you find a job that you want to apply to, you go to their website, and you'll notice when you go to the website, it quite often says, paste your resume or upload your resume. So you do that with your applicant tracking resume, and then, often you click next or submit or whatever, and you're just going to that second page. And what the system does is it parses your resume. So it's pulling data from here and there, it's looking for skills, it's looking for work experience it puts in, and then it shows you, hey, here's how the system was able to read your resume. And you look at it and you go, wow, my third job down, it didn't figure out how to do it right. It's probably because you missed a comma or formatted things differently on that third job down. So again, this, I don't know how to go backwards. How do I go backwards? That was next. Previous. Here we go. So that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm hardcore here. Use the same format for all your experience. And this one works, the commas. So the company name, comma, city, comma, state, dash, title, and then start and end in parentheses. It works pretty well. There are some systems that, Workday is sort of famous for not being so good at parsing resumes, and it's extremely popular, especially in large companies. But it will at least, read, in many cases, it will read this for the most part correctly. The other piece that sometimes messes up the system is if you have a job description or a title that's longer than their field for that data. So again, depending on the system, you might notice that the third job down, there is no description, and then it messed up your fourth job down. And that could be because your description is too long. So what I'm recommending is that you kind of bounce back and forth, take the ATS resume and work it, and then go into a system. You're not submitting your information until you get to the 7th or 8th page and click submit. And you can do that parsing back and forth. So it says, load your resume, you load it, then you click next. It parses the resume and brings up your personal information, then your education and experience. Take a look at that. If it's not correct, click the back button, or, whatever on your browser or within the application, and go back to change your resume, re-upload your resume, and then click next. And if you do that with your ATS resume a couple of times, you will kind of see changes. If it's not working, you will see changes. The idea is to get your ATS resume to work 90%, because and we could go to the polls and look how long it now takes you to put your resume into a system. But the idea is you can get in and out of those systems in 5 minutes instead of 15, 20, whatever kinds of numbers we're going to see. So the other piece here we said was skills section. So, you know, the idea that you should be writing a different cover letter or changing your resume for every job, that has merit from the fact that the resume is being used as an algorithm or keyword match to give you a score, give your profile a score. But the effort to change your resume for every job will kill you. And, you know, quite honestly, it's not really kind of the way to go. If you have a skills section, you can use that skills section to add additional keywords from the job description and just change the skills section. Now, again, if this is the God-given job for you and, you know, you would kill to get this job, rewrite your resume 100%. You know, make it perfect. But for 90% of the jobs that we apply for, it's a good job. It's one that I'm interested in, but I can't be spending 2 hours on my resume in order to submit. So use that skills section at the bottom of your resume to add additional and, in essence, customize whenever you want to. Resume length doesn't matter. Length doesn't matter. Applicant tracking. The system doesn't care how many jobs or how much information you put in there, how many skills, etc. It's not the human. It's not a person reading it and going, "Oh my God, a 4-page resume?" No, it's through the technology. It's just going to load it in. You know that. Anyway, that one is this is carried away now. Workday might read a slightly different style of applicant tracking resume than Taleo, or you might find that when you're loading your resume multiple times to see what resume style is best for this applicant tracking system, you could try a different style. But my real advice is go with a basic style, and I think I put it in here. I'll show you a basic style resume. All right. Yeah, spell check, right? Don't let it go through with errors. And then this is a real interesting site, jobscan.co. So what this basically does is it compares your resume and a job description for you. You get, I think it's 5 or 10 a month for free. So, you know, you might not use it for all of them, but I don't know, we're on the 15th or whatever, the 16th of the month. You might kind of check it out for the next 2 weeks and then know that you'll have May resets. But you jump in here. Basically, you are pasting or uploading your resume and pasting the job. And when you click scan, it is giving you a report about how much did you match. It's doing, in essence, the things that these applicant tracking systems are doing. All right? Now you take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you will see that if you go back and you change your resume and you re-upload it, yeah, hey, my score's changed. And they are obviously recommending that, you know, add more skills or change your resume to get 80% or above. And you can take a look at this. Like I say, we'll send this out. And then it allows you to, you know, even drill down on some other things and even look at cover letter or recommended jobs. I think some of these are, you know, you have to have the paid version. But even the paid version, I don't think it's that expensive. But, oh, okay. So I didn't go further on that slide. But, yeah, you could take a look at some of those other pieces, jobscan.co. And there are other ones, too. But so the other piece here that I wish that recruiters would take these questions more seriously and really use the power of the applicant tracking system. And some some job applications do. It's knockout questions. So those are, you know, most likely you think of them as, are you 18 or older? Are you a citizen? Will you require a sponsorship? Those are questions that almost everyone asks. And, you know, hey, if you have to be 18, then your resume is automatically declined. If you have to be, or the company's not interested in sponsorship, potentially automatically declined. These are truly knockout. If you give the wrong answer, you're out. And usually these questions, in order to be a knockout question, it's got to be a yes or no. It's got to be, how much experience do you have? 15. It's got to be a pick list. It's got to be something where you're picking. There are not many systems that are smart enough to take what you write in there and use that natural language processing in order to kick you out. So these are questions where, but as a recruiter, they should be using those questions. So if a job really requires 5 or more years experience, or requires a master, prefers a master's degree, or wants you to have worked in a certain industry and asks you those questions, it can either knock you out completely, or it can certainly score you higher based on the answers that you make to those questions. So please take a look and treat them seriously. So the C resume, if a system does not read your resume in, and you've had 3, 4, whatever number of jobs, it can take you a long time to fill that out manually. So this is kind of saying, don't write in there, hey, here's my job, whatever, see my resume. On the other hand, if a company doesn't have the ability to parse a resume, how technologically advanced is that company? How much are they using technology in their day-to-day business? Do you want a job in a company that can't spend, not that much money to utilize something that makes it easier for you as a candidate to apply? What's it going to be when you have to order supplies, or when you're going to promote or hire or fire or whatever, try and change somebody's salary? What does it tell you about that company? So I have that in there. If it's the best job for you and the company just, doesn't have it, then spend the time to do it. But on the other hand, I will often put in my first job, my most recent job, and then the second one down, either leave it blank, or I will say, hey, see the resume. Okay, one other piece here before we move to this, and I'll show you the resume actually. So the other thing.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So this might come up later on. I don't want to hijack it, but going back to the resume, you advise filling in dates of graduating from college or high school or graduate school. And then when it comes to like veteran or disability, do you add them in, or you just say, I refuse to, I don't want to answer the question? I mean, are these things dinged against you for answering truthfully?
Good question, but let me approach those two different ways, right? The first one was, do you put the dates on your resume from when you graduated college, or your jobs or whatever? In many systems, that's a required data entry point. In there, and graduated in 86. If you've been working since 86, and you want to show that you worked at Shearson Lehman Brothers or whatever, like I did in 86, in the World Trade Center, when there was a Shearson Lehman and a World Trade Center, then you're going to have to put it in there, and you're going to have to put in the days when the years you worked there. The catch-22 here is that if a company is going to look at that and say, he or she is too old, I'm not going to hire them, then darn sure when you do the Zoom call or when you meet them face to face, they're going to go, this guy's too old, or woman, is too old, and I'm not going to hire him. Plus, the other side of that is, if that's the way that they're doing their hiring, do you even want to work there? So my advice is, tell the truth, put your information in there, kind of let the chips fall where they may. And like I say, if you want to if you're going to go through an applicant tracking system, then you kind of don't have much choice but to put in that data or to skip that information.
So just as a follow-up, would they ask a disability question?
Sure.
So I recovered from cancer, and I'm thinking, my gosh, if they look at my dates of graduation and then they see that you recovered, thinking, my God, they're going to throw me out of the window, you know?
That's not a disability. So let's right. If you can read the section on disability within the, where they ask you, they're asking, are you handicapped? I think, right?
Yeah.
Not disabled, or probably a better politically correct way to say that. But that recovering from cancer is part of your HIPAA, part of your medical record profile, and they don't have access and shouldn't have access, and you don't need to bring that up. A handicap is generally if you're going to require some sort of accommodation for them to allow you to work there. So it would mean that I'm blind and I need a system that will read to me emails to me. Or I'm in a wheelchair and I need a ramp to get up the thing. Or I can only lift packages for an hour. Those kinds of things are things that require a reasonable accommodation. That's what they're asking you for. They're not asking, and they pretty damn well shouldn't be asking, because now you're into discrimination. And
the question they ask is, do you have a disability, or have you in the past had a disability? And some companies list cancer as that disability.
Yeah. So, hi, this is John Denome. The part about the past, I agree that with Morris, first of all, they shouldn't be asking that, and I just simply wouldn't answer it.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I think what I'm referring to is where it's required around handicap.
Yeah.
It's a governmental form that says just, are you handicapped or not? If somebody's asking you, about your medical history, I would not respond. I mean, what's the bona fide occupational qualification, right? I think it's an airline pilot. So if you're applying to be an airline pilot, they can probably ask you if you wear glasses.
Right.
But otherwise, they have no right to that information.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yep. I'm hoping you can see this Word document on my screen. And yes, okay. So the idea here, this is the ugly applicant tracking resume. I have a couple of them because my particular area is human resources, but also human resources systems and technology. So this resume is, it ain't pretty. It's not intended to be pretty. It is just words, right? And it is, my information up top, the word experience, company, comma, city, comma, state, comma, title, and then dates within parentheses, and then my description, and no bullets, no nothing. This is just, I am dumping this data into an applicant tracking system. That's the purpose. And then I go to another company, comma, city, etc. I don't want to get boring, but the idea is you are truly maintaining this same kind of pattern so that the computer goes, cool, I got it. First is the company, then is the city, then is the state. I understand, and it can read this data in. Is there a question?
I just wanted to ask, actually, Carol, I think, wanted to ask a question first.
I was just going to point out that may not want to use parentheses in the phone number.
Right.
Basically because of ageism. Millennials don't know what an area code is. So all they know is dashes and dots.
That's cool.
So that would have gone by the wayside.
That's interesting.
I mean, my view is if they're ageist, they are. But why do we want to give them an excuse that we don't have to?
That's true. That's cool. That's a good one. I didn't think of that. Let's go with make a note of that.
My only thing is I probably wouldn't put my physical address. I'd put city, state, and zip.
Totally fine as well.
Yeah.
As long as you'll see some of the systems will require an address. So I again, to me, this resume is intended to get in and get out. I don't want to have to fill in any fields if I can avoid it within the ATS system.
Got it.
Yes. Get 5, the old, the new name for the 5 o'clock club. They gave a list of applicant tracking systems and what address information they require. So some of them do require a full street address. Because some of them, if you just put city, state, they actually search on zip. So they operate
Okay.
differently.
Is that a list that you could share?
Yes.
That'd be awesome. If you send that to me or Zoe or
Yeah.
anybody.
The
So
zip code makes sense. It's just the physical address part that I'm uncomfortable with.
No,
Well,
a lot of people do because of identity theft. And no one really sends paper mail anymore except for an application.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's different viewpoints.
So here's
Thank you.
education, you know, and some systems read this better than others. You know, where do you put your master's or bachelor's, and do you call it an MA or a BA? And, you know, you can see some of those differences between when you load your resume into an ATS. To me, this area is, you know, not that hard to tweak on the system if you have to. So I didn't really spend that much time messing around with formatting. This seems to work pretty well. And then here's that skills area. So this is I'll add or take things away. You know, these are all the sort of technologies. These are all the functional areas, etc. Again, the reason I'm showing you this is the applicant tracking resume. Keep it ugly, but keep it machine learning compatible, or whatever the words are. All right, let me bop back
So
here.
the soft skills are really in the description of your job.
Correct. Or if you want to put more soft skills in at the bottom, right? In my skills, I don't know what you know, the things about, yeah, here you go. Multitask, independently, communicate, empathetic.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep. Load them in there too. But, you know, remember that the description of the job that you have is potentially right there in their sort of resume-ish kind of area. From your profile within their applicant tracking system. So, you know, you try and put something in there that makes sense. I think one of these I had trouble with because it was rather long. Yeah, here's the Novartis one. So it's long. On some systems, this may kind of break and it'll mess them up. It'll put things in a different way. So I think I cut it down a little bit in order to try and make it work better. But that's that back and forth. You can do if you do that at the beginning and you get something that works 90%, you know, it's going to save you some time.
Morris,
Yes.
it's Ford. I have a question.
Yes.
I noticed that you use present tense in all your verbs. Is that intentional? Is that for a reason? Because in most resumes, when you talk about past jobs, you use past tense.
It is not. That is not on purpose.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious.
So that's a good point. I what do you call it? Submit. That's not the word. I agree with you, Ford. If that is the preferred methodology for resumes, that's something that that's not technical to me. That's recruiter. So if that's your recommendation, I would take that.
Okay, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I was just curious about if that was a rule you were following for any particular reason. But I guess the bottom line is it's optional and you can choose whichever style you prefer.
I don't think, I know that the applicant tracking system's not reading that. It's not, you know, it's reading it, but it's not judging.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so bouncing back to the presentation and recognize that we are time-wise. Let me go from here. I'll just show you a couple more. These are some cool, so this is the whole idea, right, that we were talking about before, is that you should be doing research either before or after you apply, but right when you find the job, about, do you want to work for this company? And, you know, these are some areas where you could look. These are some pretty cool sites for getting additional kind of inside information or other people's reviews. So I think I go Comparably. This was one of them. You can put in the company name. It tells you how many employees participated in some of these things. It gives you some information about the company, etc. So those, I'm not going to go through them because we're short on time, but you'll get the thing. You'll get the presentation, and they're definitely worth looking at. Fairy Godmother, I think, is one that it concentrates a little bit more on from the perspective of gender diversity and is the company right for you. But there's a lot of good information in there. And then the interview questions. I just put these in here, things for you to be able to understand so that you are informed when you're getting an interview. Just examples. And then there's the big one, right? Apply online, follow up, and even, some people have said, send an old style snail mail. The argument I've heard is that people get very little, paper mail these days, and it may sort of rise you to the top. It may be something where they go, wow, look, an extra initiative. I think it was in Legally Blonde where she submitted her resume on pink paper that was perfumed. You could go to that extent. Ken has many times. There you go. Thank you for laughing off of mute. That was good. I appreciate it. So the other, hey, 80% of jobs are never advertised. So it's, all of these things is continued advice. And then the other idea of, okay, now you're getting that interview, so you have a second resume. These are two sites that kind of enhance your resume and or give you, I think, I didn't show you the other one, give you a little bit more pizzazz to your resume, colors, line and box, things, so that, again, potentially it's something to carry in when you're going. But to the point, applicant tracking systems are going to parse your resume, and we want to get our data into the system, get it understood by their system so that we can be ranked highly and get it to the point where we can get out quickly. These are just a couple slides to sort of say, who are we dealing with? Taleo, Greenhouse, internal systems, iCIMS, JobVite, etc. Some names that you might recognize or you might see, well, you will see when you apply for jobs if you look in that address when you're on the system. Taleo concentrates on knockout. So like I think Carol had said, maybe she had something around information for how some of these systems differ. This is a little bit in there, how do they differ? iCIMS, they're saying that the number of times you use the word is ranked higher. And in many cases, that's true. That's, definitely if a word is repeated multiple times in the job description, it probably should be repeated multiple times in your resume. Yeah, this is just them being able to kind of match like we saw jobscan.co, they're kind of able to do this and match rate and then kind of give you a score. So Silk Road is another ATS system. And Workday is I love that. It's the sexy beast. If you're in human resources, you want to have Workday on your resume, unfortunately or fortunately. It's a big system. It requires and costs a lot of money to implement and then maintain, but it's notoriously poor at resume parsing. So if it's used very often and it's used by a lot of the big companies, and those are who you're applying to, this is where an ATS resume can really save you time because they're just not that good at it. So keep it simple. Yeah, this is just a couple quick slides because I want to look at the polling question. So these three are, jobs 100 to 500. Taleo's still pretty big. Conexa, you'll see it sort of changes as things get smaller. Greenhouse grows. JobVite, we didn't see those in the slides that were much larger companies. These are pretty neat to look at as well. Hunter.io is a way to find people's email addresses. So this is pretty cool if you're, doing research online and you find a recruiter or the CHRO or whatever, a higher level person in your function is. You could go to hunter.io and put in the company name and the person's name. Will find in many cases, it will find information there and give you a couple different formats. So I was looking for someone at Cooper University Hospital over here, and it turns out that they don't do first name, period, last name, or first initial, or an underline, because I tried a bunch of them to send this person an email. It was last name, period, first name. And, eventually I used this and got to that person. MailChimp is, exactly a sort of a marketing kind of tool that is more for blasting multiple an email to multiple people. And then this is just, I think that this is kind of one of the best job posting search things that you can sign up for. Google will send you jobs based on your criteria, daily, weekly, whatever, but it crosses LinkedIn, Indeed, Career Builder, Glassdoor, etc. So those are a couple links for folks. There you go. I think we said those things.
Could you zing back? What's the Google address? Because Glassdoor is just inundating me.
Previous was it's google.com/alerts.
/alerts. Thank you.
Yep.
Morris, do you have to put in the search terms, right?
Absolutely. This just gets you to the page. Yes, absolutely, Zoe. Then you create
what would
from
you
there.
put in?
Hopefully they do a better job than Glassdoor. I've done that with them, refined it several times, but they don't. They just throw everything at me.
Yeah.
Because you could do alerts for other things as well. Like if you wanted an alert every time your name appears in, the news or something, you could set up an alert. So you do have to kind of tailor the keywords, I guess, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like to a specific company that you're looking for a job at or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or even, the fact that it is jobs, the fact that it is a certain title is usually what I use, to try and get it. But then you can refine that as well. Yep. All right. I'm stopping the share in order to go back to the poll. And I guess we end polling. And so how many jobs do you apply for a week? 2 to 3, 4 to 9, kind of 2 to 3 or less. So if you're doing 2 or 3 jobs a week and it's taking you an hour each job, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's, fine with you. To me, it's how do you get it in there and get out as quickly as possible. 2 to 3 resumes, most of us have. Excellent. And I would, highly counseling to add one more. Less than 10 minutes. You guys are doing really well. That's great. If it's less than 10 minutes, you're doing something right. Or maybe you're just not including your experience in the system. But less than 10 minutes is great. Most difficult. Yeah, I mean, that's where I am. I don't want to have to fill that out. And never hearing from them ever again. Yep, that is just horrible and stupid. And again, my business is HR technology. All of the systems that we're talking about have in there to send automatic emails. I counsel HR that this is the only time that you are getting someone as a captive audience. You could actually market to them. Now that marketing could be based on, the fact that we have a great culture, but it also could be based on the fact that we have some great new product that we're launching. So I think that's, that's shame on them. But filling out the information on the resume is what we're hoping. And then here you go. That's nice to see. Cool. That's more for my information. But Jive is kind of an up and comer. Greenhouse is another one that you're going to start to see more of. Taleo was the big dog for years, and these other guys have kind of caught up to them.
Lawrence, I don't think we're seeing your screen right now. Unless
you're not seeing the poll? The poll you're not seeing?
No.
How do I help them see the poll? Share results. Oh, that was stupid of me.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. I'll just continue blathering on and on. So good. So if you take a look at these results, you'll see around what I was just, if 10 minutes is pretty cool, that's pretty impressive. And I think they're getting better at parsing resumes, or your resume is already, parsed up well or correctly or whatever. It's formatted well, then that's great, but okay. So one or two last items for me is your resume and all this information that you're giving, your cover letter, your resume, in many cases is loaded into the applicant tracking system and is data that they are able to then look for and parse, or they can search for resumes that meet certain criteria. They can use that job, resume matching to give you a score. Those scores can utilize all things that you submit. It depends on the system and how they configured it, etc. But so if you're writing a cover letter and you're attaching it, as Ken said, it can't hurt. Plus, it could help because it's repeating some of the themes that you might have had on your resume. It could be repeating some of those key words. And if they're taking that holistic approach, then it could raise your score. So that's a good idea to do. The other piece here is the reason that they drop those words from your resume into like the form in the system. It says job 1 and then job description 1 and job 2, job 3, is because historically you were writing reports based on a certain field. So it would be current job, right? If in the system, when you're writing a report as a recruiter, search current job for this title, as opposed to secondary or tertiary, etc. job. So that was kind of why they had it there. Now they've gotten smarter to be able to allow the search to use your scanned in resume and all of this other information. And so it's not necessarily as important to have it in each one of those job fields. However, if the recruiter goes to the system and looks you up, generally the first thing they're going to see is that information, and then they have to click on to see your actual resume. It's just an additional click, but seeing what your jobs are and sort of being able to scan quickly through that is potentially a boon to them, a help to them. So again, the ATS resume.
Beacon is the premier executive networking organization serving the Mid-Atlantic region. To learn more, go to beaconforlife.org.